Alexander's invasion. After overrunning the Achaemenid Empire, Alexander the Great turned his sights to India. This was the first time he moved beyond the limits of the Persian Empire. Alexander sent heralds ahead of him to the native rulers on the west side of the Indus and divided his army into two. He led one wing himself, and the other was commanded by Hephaestion. Alexander took his troops and razed several cities, fought a battle at Massacre which turned into a massacre, and conducted the battle at Aornos Rock. Somewhere in this region, Alexander visited a city called Nissa which was in legend founded by a god. After crossing the Indus, Alexander was welcomed by the native ruler of Taxila, known to the Greeks as Taxila, and other allies. One Sikritos was sent to interview the native ascetics about their way of life, but the conversation was rumored to be difficult as the Greeks had to use 3 different levels of interpreters. Alexander was nevertheless impressed enough to bring an Indian philosopher whom the Greeks called Kalanos. Another Indian philosopher was asked also but had refused to come. When Alexander had reached Malloy and Oxydrakai in 325 BC, the people had claimed that they always lived freely, directly contradicting with Persian accounts of rule over the region. After this, Alexander's first opponent was the Raja Porus. Porus and Taxiles were longtime enemies, and the latter saw Alexander's arrival as a way to settle old scores. Porus and Alexander had fought a battle on the Hydaspes, which was the last major battle of Alexander's campaign. The armies had met in June, when the monsoon had begun, and it was the first time Alexander and his troops had encountered elephants in battle. After the defeat of Porus in Greek sources, most armies that he had encountered had come to submit, with very few refusing to do so, such as the people of Sangala who were massacred. Porus's kingdom of Paurava had been given back to him, along with many other territories which were gifted to him by Alexander himself. The battle with Porus had blunted the Macedonians' courage as it had caused heavy losses for them. Supposedly after the disheartened and homesick attitude of his troops, Alexander had returned home through Maloys. On his return, Alexander had conquered many resisting Indian Janas and Janapadas, and those who had refused were killed. Many Brahmins were noted to be executed by Alexander, much to the shock of the Indians. Nevertheless, Alexander made little effort to retain the land he had conquered.